Hi, I'm Jodie Mears. I'm a C-suite executive assistant, speaker, and in my spare time, I'm a career strategist and mentor for assistants globally. And like many of you, I used to think that if I worked hard enough, stayed late, and made my executives' life easier, they would just see my value. But unfortunately, that's not how it always works. Here's the truth I had to understand and understand fast when someone said to me, Jodie, stop moaning in private. Your work doesn't speak, you do. It was a reality check and one that I like other assistants to understand sooner in their careers to avoid this mistake. It can be the biggest misconception for assistants, particularly as we are often the ones staying in the background and hoping great work will just speak for itself. It doesn't. Remember, the work doesn't speak, you do. And visibility isn't automatic either. It's intentional. We have to be very strategic in the way we show up for ourselves. The assistants who get noticed, you are noticing them get noticed, but they're not doing more work than you. They're just making their impact easier to see. Let me tell you when this really clicked for me. A few years ago, I handled a very last minute board briefing. I pulled everything together in under 24 hours, understanding the background, agenda, actions from the last meeting, secured an external venue, booked the catering, formatted the slides, and even sent the executive with a backup version just in case the tech went sideways, you know those ones. And the meeting went completely smoothly. Compliments were flying around afterwards, but none of them were directed at me. Not because I didn't deserve them, but because no one knew I was the one who'd held it all together and made it possible in a short space of time. That was the moment I realised if I didn't start shaping how people saw me and my role, they would never truly understand the impact I was having. Sometimes we make things look too easy and say nothing. And I know I'm not the only one. How many times have you solved something behind the scenes and then watched someone else get the credit for it, or worse, watched no one notice at all? That's not a reflection on your value. It's a gap in your visibility, and it's one you can close with one small shift. So let me share one more moment that really stayed with me. I once sat in this client project closeout meeting, big, huge meeting where each team lead presented their highlights and every area had a slide except admin and business support. And yet we booked the travel, venues for client dinners, proofread the comms, managed the executive calendar changes, prepped the bid and coordinated the very meeting we were in. I remember looking up and thinking, if I don't speak up for this work we did, no one will notice and no one will ever speak up. And from that day, I stopped waiting. I started finding ways, just small ways, to show the value of what I did and what we did as a unit. So let's start there. The small, easy ways to fix this visibility mistake. I call it the one-line impact update. It's really simple, it's fast, and it completely reframes how your executive sees you. And here's how it works. At the end of each week, just write down one sentence that captures something you influenced or improved. And I used this formula. Because of add your action, this result happened. So because I restructured the leadership meeting agenda, we cut decision-making time in half. Because I streamlined the onboarding checklist, we reduced the new hire ramp up by 2 days. Because I stepped in and covered that urgent client request, we hit the deadline without missing a beat. So you can see you don't need paragraphs and a huge email update sent to your executive to make impact. All you need is proof points and to speak the language of the business, which is typically time and cost savings to the organisation or the executive personally. So what you're doing here, you're shifting yourself from execution to ownership. You're moving from I did these tasks to here's the difference I made. Now imagine doing that every Friday for a month. You'd have 4 sharp examples ready to go. You'd walk into your next one-to-one or even your goal-setting meeting with absolute confidence. And when someone asks you what you've been working on, you'll have the receipts that position you as a true business partner. So here's a question for you to reflect on. If your exec had to justify your role to someone senior tomorrow, would they know what to say? And here's the follow-up question to that. Do you know how to answer that clearly and confidently? If there's even a moment of hesitation, this habit I mentioned can change the game for you and position you as not necessarily the best, but the best known assistant. Now let's take it one step further. I use something called the Friday Wins Tracker. It's a tool I built for myself and now teach to other assistants to use because it turns those one-liners into real data. It's a simple way to structure your weekly wins into a format that's easy to search, share, and speak from. But here's the magic of that. You can also use AI to help you do it in seconds. Here's a prompt you can paste into ChatGPT or Copilot, whatever you use. Act as a professional performance tracker. Please review my entries for this week's achievements and create a 5-minute Friday wins tracker table. The table should have columns for day, win, and impact. Summarize each win clearly and highlight why it mattered. That's it. So now you've got a growing bank of impact stories. You can use them in performance reviews and even in LinkedIn updates for content ideas if you like, or just to remind yourself what you're actually capable of. I've had assistants tell me this one habit changed how they see themselves because for the first time they've had evidence of the value they bring. This is especially powerful for quieter professionals, introverts, observers, the ones who are naturally modest. This isn't about self-promotion. It's about self-advocacy. There is a big difference. So let me give you an analogy of that. So imagine you're at a dinner party. You help set the table, you help cook the meal, you kept everything on time. The guests have had an amazing evening. But when someone stands up to toast the evening, they only mention the host, not the person who made the night work. So would you speak up? Would you wait and hope someone else notices? Or would you find a gentle, confident way to say, I was part of that too? That's what this visibility work actually is. It's not an uncomfortable spotlight. It's a signal. You're letting others see what was always there, which is your contributions. So here's your challenge from me to you. This Friday, before you log off, write one sentence, capture something you improved, solved, or simplified this week. Then run it through the AI prompt. Build your own Friday wins tracker table. And soon enough, you'll be surprised how quickly this becomes a habit and how much easier it is to talk about your value when the time comes. If you've been sitting on the sidelines of your own story, like I was, this is your way in. Because the real shift, it's not just about being seen. It's about owning what you bring to the table quietly, consistently, and with that clarity. And you don't have to change who you are either. You just need a better way to show what you do. And if no one's ever told you this before, let me tell it to you today. It's okay to say, here's what I made possible this week. That's not arrogance. That's leadership and self-advocacy. If this video gave you something to think about, feel free to share it or drop a comment below. I'd love to hear how you're putting it into action and how it's working for you. Thank you for watching, and remember, your work matters, so make sure people can see it.